So I guess I need to show you guys a little bit of this project. I haven't made really, I guess, any videos lately about working with the machines, but it is what it is. This is a little road, I've probably talked about it before, excuse me, that goes around the north side of my house. And I'm trying to walk over here to get your profile. So coming in off the side of the driveway, this is the road that goes around back to our shop. Now, up until yesterday, this road had a slope on it about like the rest of the yard. It just sloped right down to the trees, and it's got a good solid base under it. You can drive across this road, you know, pretty much any given time, and you have no problems. You don't sink in, you don't even barely leave a tire track. But the problem is the slope. So if you drive across it after we've had a rain and it's slick, you just can't get any traction, and so you just slide right down against the trees. We haven't actually slid over and hit a tree, but my wife tried to come in here and she got just to right here one night and slid over to where she was about to hit this little willow tree. And so I actually had to hook a chain with the tractor and pull her this direction while she drove forward, because even in four-wheel drive she just spun all four tires and just scooted over. It's like being on ice. Anyway, so what I'm doing on it is, you can see I've done a lot of fill work in here, and I'm bringing this whole thing up. I'm trying to level out the road around to the shop. Now eventually it's going to be rocked, and so once it has rock on it, the slope wouldn't really matter anyway. But I'm trying to level it up because I want to be able to come through here with loads of, you know, lumber on the forks of the tractor or stuff stacked on a trailer, and I don't want it, you know, tilting and wanting to fall over on that slope either. It wasn't terribly extreme, but it's enough that you get a little uncomfortable. So what I've been doing is just coming through here. I'm not hiring a dump truck for this. Wilbur's out of commission right now. I'm trying to sell that. So I'm just on Rosie, and I'm just going back over here in the pond, taking a big bucket full as much as I can get out of the pond, track it over here and drop it and dump it. So first I started dropping right along this edge, and then I tracked back and forth. Really, I started dropping back there, you know, kind of spreading out, and that way I'm tracking back and forth over it every time I help pack it in. And then I came down over in here. There was kind of a wet spot right in here, and I pulled all that mud up. That's the last thing I did last night. I pulled all that mud up here on top, tried to spread it out and drain it. So now I'm gonna go get Rosie, get a couple buckets, track them up to here, drop them, buckets of good dry stuff, drop them in there to fill in that low spot, get it brought up. And then we'll just do a few more along here just to bring this up a little bit more. It's really pretty flat, it's pretty good. And I may even see about having it pitch this way, so the water would actually run down and then have to go back up, and I'll cut a ditch around the inside to help with drainage. But realistically, if it's flat and it's rocked, I'd be okay with that. But I think I want to bring this outside slope up a little bit more too, just so in the future, if we're coming back here with a truck and a long trailer, if the truck's got to go a little wide to get around the pump house, he's not going to be falling off the edge of the slope. So we'll see. My focus, like I said, is to bring up down in there, bring it up a couple buckets, and then I'll just kind of see how I feel after doing that about coming through here and dropping a few more to fill this in. But it's a little squishy and nasty right now. Just, it's been drying all day, but like I said, it's yesterday evening I pulled that muck up on top, and that kind of made it gooey. And some of the clay that I'm getting and moving, it's a little wet. I'm trying to get down on the bottom of the pile and get dry stuff out. But I think after a few buckets today, it's going to be even better. Now, once we get around back here by the shop, it kind of levels out anyway, so I don't really have to do any fill work back here. But I just wanted to show you guys kind of an intro on that. Probably not going to be any action footage, but figured I'd talk about it anyway, at least mention what I'm doing. It's a nice option that I have with Rosie. You know, excavators aren't really meant to track back and forth that much. I make Rosie do a little bit more than she probably should, but it works. I tracked back and forth for maybe an hour to move all this dirt in here. I don't remember if it was 10 or 12 buckets what I put over here. May not even been that many, but basically if I'd have called out a big dump truck to move the same amount of dirt, he'd have been 100 to 120 minimum. You know, he'd probably charge me a 2-hour minimum, really $200, just to come out here and do a little bit of work. So it's one of those things where I don't like tracking that much, but I can do it when I need to and when it's advantageous. So I'm gonna jump back on Rosie now. We're gonna bail a little bit more out of the pond here. Like I said, take a few more bucketfuls, get all that filled in. I may throw a few buckets in here because it's a similar muddy mess and it just needs to have a few buckets of dry dirt put in it to solidify that road. But yeah, kind of rounding out the pond anyway, cutting out the rest of this front corner. I want to flatten out all that area in there and get more of this stockpile just kind of taken down and out of the pond. We've got about 5 feet to go before the water gets up on this level, so I've got to finish all that and have that cleaned up before the water gets that high. So anyway, for today we're working on the road. Wow. Well, okay. For you guys, the transformation isn't going to be as impressive. I should have made a before video, like always. I should have made a planning video, but I got to work and just did what needed to happen. But here's basically the finished product. I'm done putting dirt on it. I put, I don't know, 6 or 7 more buckets of dirt on it yesterday out of the pond with Rosie. And really, like I said, yesterday I was just topping off. I wanted to get a little bit more dirt down in here on the low spot to get it raised up, and it's still got a little squish to it, but some of that dirt I put in was a little wet anyway. I couldn't ask for better weather right now. It's sunny, clear, warm. It was breezy yesterday, not breezy today, but it's drying it pretty quick. So I've been going back and forth across it every couple hours and just doing a little more blade work and trying to get some of the wet stuff up on top, you know, and drying out. So that's why you see the little tire track here. But this all through here is really good and leveled off now. It looks like maybe there's a low spot right in here, a little bit low, that might become kind of a puddle, but once it's rocked, it won't be a puddle. But you can see the cross section now. I don't know if you can see in the shadow. Let me see if I can get the camera to see that. No, not really. So you see we're coming down over here, and then it hits the edge of the road, flattens off, and then it drops off again. And it drops off over here. Over here it's steeper than it is over here, which is okay. Because I wanted to make this corner as wide as possible. At first it was pretty tight against the pump house, but if I'm coming through here with a long truck and a trailer, you know, I've got to have that room to make that turn. And so the truck is going to be running his front right tire, you know, over here, maybe even dropping off the edge a little bit, in order to have room to get the trailer around and not hit the pump house. So making it as wide as possible in the turn ends up making this bank here drop off a little steeper. So you can see it's a little blocky and choppy. That's just the last pass that I just made with the box blade. I did come in once this morning and pulled everything up with the box blade to get all the blocky stuff up from grade and kind of smooth that bank. And so I'll have to do that maybe once or twice more. But what I've been working on now is coming back across the top over there where it was a little high and stripping all that down and letting it, I really need a blade like a bullhorn, a blade that I can pivot a little bit to help it slide the material out to the edge. My neighbor's got one. I don't know what kind of shape it's in, but the box blade has a square back on it. So the box blade, the only way you get material to move to the side is just by having it so full that it spills out the side. And so what I've been doing is stripping off the top to bring this down and flatten it off a little bit, and then I get a pile over here and then I back up with that pile and bulldoze it, and I just kind of bulldoze it out this direction towards the edge, and as I round the corner it does kind of push it out a little bit. So it's working, it's working, it's working. And this is, I mean, this is solid. Even though it feels a little gooey, this is good and solid. I mean, I would have no problem putting my truck across this right now. You know, I'd leave tracks, of course, but it's very, very solid. And that was my only real concern. I didn't want to heap up a new road here, you know, that was loose fill, and then try to drive through it with a truck and trailer and just squish and sink and slide off into the woods anyway. So you do a little bit of blade work here just to kind of smooth that out and clean it up. But that's basically off the edge of what will be the road anyway. But I'll just spin around here and give you guys kind of a second approach. So this is coming back from the shop, coming back out towards the driveway. And so it's the same thing. You can see it's really nice and level. You can see that slope of the yard coming down, leveled off, and then drops off over here against the trees. I am very happy with this. Very, very happy. It's hard to, I know the video never does it justice, but for me right now, I'm standing up above those logs. I'm about, I don't know, 2 to 3 feet above that area. So I'm pretty good up here, at least 2 feet. The house sits, the hill on the house is 4 feet above grade. So I'd say I'm about half that down from the foundation to over here. So it's at least 2 feet. Which of course I'm never worried about this road flooding, but it's just funny to see the transformation. For me, it's amusing, I guess. So anyway, I'm rambling. I just want to show you guys the kind of finished product. So this is it for now. I got to see about getting some rock. Hopefully I can get some rock on it before it rains, but I've only got 1 day to do that. basically Monday I'm going to be looking for rock, and they're going to say, oh, well, sorry, we can't schedule. We'll get to you tomorrow. And Tuesday it's supposed to rain. Sometime. Maybe I can get it Tuesday morning and beat the rain. But I'm also trying to decide. I was planning on just putting out geotextile fabric and rocking over that, which would be totally fine. But then part of me kind of wants to do a geo mesh or geo grid and not put plastic under it, but do a geo mesh and do some screenings and then plant grass on it, so it would all be grassed, but it would still be a solid road base. I don't know. It's more than I've ever done before, but it's something I've just been thinking on, so we'll see. We'll let you know. This is it for the road. Well, I just figured I'd show off a little something else I've been working on. This just kind of came to me yesterday, and I just was working on it again today a little bit. This is a future connecting road. Wow. That is so horrible. That's that milkshake mud, folks, and I'll show you all the time. This is what was left, actually, of the original levee and moat around the whole property. There was one little ditch and hole left here. I think that's all it is. I don't think there's any other holes anywhere. I think I filled everything in. Pretty cool. Look at that. Another landmark. Anyway, this is a little connector road to go through to my neighbor's property. I think I may have mentioned this before, but ultimately my goal with my property is to, change it all out, it's all row planted pine. I want to change it all to hardwoods. But I also, my current pit over there, I'm closing it out. I'm done. I've dug everything I'm going to. Now I'm just praying for rain. But long term, I want to have another pit on the very back. My property goes back almost a half a mile that way. So I want to open up a new pit on the back, a dedicated dirt pit. And I was going to clear a road, on my place over and then come right over to this fence and go all the way down the fence line. And then I thought, well, why would I do that? Because my neighbor's property has a power line easement, which used to be a county road. So it should still have a pretty good base under it. So it would make a lot more sense. And I don't think he would care. I think we've mentioned it before to him, but anyway, I think it'd make a lot more sense if we just put in a couple of gates and I just go to the back of his property. So I'd come right across here, all the way back on the easement, and then come back across onto my property to open up the pit. And I think he'd be perfectly thrilled with that, especially if I dump a few loads of dirt up front here around his barn lot, because of course his whole feedlot for his cattle floods. It's shockingly dry right now. Anyway, so yeah, this just kind of came to me yesterday. I was working right there trying to clean up some of my crap, and I looked through the trees and I realized this little area, you see we got some tallow here. This is where they did a row thinning years ago before I ever bought the place, and it all growed back up in tallow. And there's actually this spot, I'd kind of eyeballed it for, the road to go through here. But this spot is a little bit wetter than most of the others. You can see the soil is a little bit black, which everything, not the soil, but the ground, everything through here holds water, right? We've always talked about that. But this spot in particular stays wet longer than most others. So it was dry. So I snatched the opportunity yesterday. I came in here, I bucketed in, I don't know, maybe 10 buckets of dirt with Rosie to kind of build my road up to it. And then I went over to Alonzo's. Alonzo had this 20-inch culvert, or 18, I don't know how big it is. But Alonzo had this culvert he'd said I could have a long time ago. He got it for free somewhere, and he didn't need it. So I went ahead and threw this in because the water does flow through here. And so now I'm not, blocking up water and forcing it onto the neighbor, which again, he knows everything floods. He probably wouldn't complain anyway, but at least now I can say, look, there's a culvert. And ultimately what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the shop foundation, and I'm going to cut this little road back down almost to nothing. I'm going to cut it down just so that it's an inch or two above the regular grade, so when we do get a big rain, it's the first thing to dry out. That way, if we do get a big rain, this whole road can go under as well. As long as it doesn't flood the shop, then I don't care if it floods this little road. Like I said, this is not going to be an all-season road. I'm not planning on using it every day. I'm not even going to rock it. It's just here to have and be able to use, on occasion when we need it. Of course, there's more to this project. We've got to actually put the gates in, which I'll probably have to fund all of this for the neighbor. He may help pay for it just to be nice. But I mean, it's not something he asked for. This is all my idea. But ultimately, we'll have to dig some pretty big post holes down, you know, either side of the road here. Probably put in like a double swing, you know, 210s, like a 20-foot wide double swing gate. But yeah, the soil's pretty loose. He sets fence posts every like 3 feet. It's ridiculous how much this fence must have cost him to build. I mean, our soil's not that loose, but seriously, fence posts every 3 to 4 feet, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He had 6 strands of barbed wire. No, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 7 down there. There's 2 strands along the bottom broken here. Anyway, dude's serious about his fence. But we will put in, like I said, put in some big heavy-duty double gate posts, corner posts here, and put in a real nice gate. So then again, the ideal will be whenever I want to get over onto his place, which I mean, he's giving me a key to his other gate, so I really don't think he cares. But I like to come over here and get, you know, manure for the garden soil. There's a huge pile of it right here. So I think he'll, you know, basically I can go into his place anytime I want. He doesn't really care. And so I don't know why he would bother or why he would care if I put in another gate back here. I think he'd actually like that better because it's back off the road so people don't see it and know that it's here per se. Anyway, I just wanted to mention kind of what I'm working on and what the plan is with it, why I'm doing it, and mention to you guys, you know, if you are homesteading, it's certainly important to know your neighbors and be on good terms with your neighbors because things like this can happen. This is how I grew up. I always grew up with gates on the fence lines onto the neighboring properties. It didn't mean that you had to use them, didn't mean that you ever used them. But the fact that there was a gate and both neighbors had a key, you know, and they agreed, hey man, you know, you can come onto my place, I can come onto your place as needed. So that's important. That's an important relationship to have. So anywho, I'm gonna go in the house, grab some lunch. I'm hot, I'm tired. Just got done moving the old Connex box back here and threw a few more buckets of dirt in on top of that culvert, got that put in. So now I get the tractor back in here with the box blade, clean it up, make it look real pretty. But this needs some time. I showed you that, yeah. This needs some serious time to dry and pack because I run across that with the tractor, it'll go down. Oh, come on, I'm trying to make it pop. It's like a zit. If you get it right, you can make it pop and make that goo come up. Okay, yeah, I need to go eat. The Connex box is, well, we're getting a little bit more rain, and this was well predicted. They said maybe 1 to 2 inches, so I'm hoping for more. You know, if it's gonna rain, might as well be worth it. But what I want to show you guys was this little just crossing that I made. So I know I talked a good bit about my ditch that was cut through the front, which it's gotten all messed up and rutted up, me running back and forth through it with the tractor and the excavator and everything else, and I've been trying to fix it and maintain it and make it better. The one problem that I had was while that ditch was all messed up there, I was coming across down here with the tractor to get back and forth to the sawmill, well, from the sawmill and of course to the shop, so that makes sense. But I was making a big mess of what was down here. And so what I just did the other day, knowing this rain was coming, and it needed to be done anyway, but I beat the rain at least. I went right in here and I cleaned this ditch out a little bit and I dropped 2 pipes in. Now I had just some black corrugated pipe left over, like the stuff you put on your gutter drains, okay? So this is not big heavy duty pipe. I dropped in 2 of them just because I had them. And you can see here, I put a mesh of boards over top of them to protect them. Because if I just threw dirt in on top of them and drove over them, I was afraid they were gonna smash. They really are that thin. So I stacked boards, just scrap off the sawmill. I stacked scrap on both sides of the pipe to kind of build up a, I guess you'd say like a header. And then I laid boards across the top as a web, as a bridge, and then stacked the dirt on top of that. It looks to be holding. This is why I wanted to come out here and check, because I wasn't sure. So I had the shovel stuck here just as a marker to remind me where the edge was at. You know, I really wasn't sure. I've run back and forth across it a couple times since I built it, and I didn't really feel like I was squishing or sinking, but you know, you don't know what's going on down below. And like today I ran across it with some really heavy bundles of wood, and like I said, I didn't sink, I didn't cut ruts when I did, so I wasn't too worried, but you never know. So I just want to come out here and check, and it looks like it's working great. So this crossing is truly temporary. It's just here until I can get all the ditch finished graded and get my road basically from where the excavator's at straight through to this pine tree. I want to have an access road back to the sawmill. Now I say that, I want this ditch left open. That's why I say this is temporary. So ultimately my plan is to cut this out and have there be just a, just a general dip here that I can get across. But this needs to stay here until the sawmill moves. So long-term plan, once that whole area up there behind the excavator is, or behind the dump truck, once that's all ready and the 2 greenhouse structures go up, 1 greenhouse structure will become my new sawmill shed. So my sawmill will move from here up to there. So now I won't have to be coming back here at all. That's the idea, is I won't have to be crossing this ditch any given time. Everything back here where the sawmill's at now, this whole area will become our garden, and we can build a little footbridge over there from the house, whatever we want to do. But my idea, my plan is not to have to be running back here all the time. There'll be another road that comes from the dump truck, back past the cattle panels there, and back around that camper. That'll be the actual access road to get back here. So again, it's kind of it's a multi-step process, as is everything that I do out here. But it's hinging heavily on getting this area over here prepped and getting those greenhouse structures up, getting that road over there fixed up, because I'm actually shifting that road also. It's got to move over closer to the diesel tank. I set the diesel tank further back in the trees. That whole road is going to shift over against the tree line. It used to be about 20 feet off the trees. So that's all going to shift over. That whole road really needs some help. I mean, it's solid. I could drive on it right now and not get stuck, but it'd slip around and make a mess. So I try not to. Over here, just past the sawmill, it's pretty doughy. That needs a good dry season to dry out and pack and be bladed. Right now, if I walked across it, I would squish in a good bit and tear it up. So I've been trying to stay off of that, hence why I've been driving through here. So I'm kind of chasing my own tail, I guess. I keep, trying to fix one road, and that requires me to build 2 more, it seems like, to get it all done. But anyway, I just wanted to walk out here and check this in the rain, make sure it's working. It looks like it's working great. I mean, the water's not, there's 2 4-inch pipes in there. Assuming they're both open, you can see the water's running in, just no problem, nothing's getting backed up. And it's running out just as good on the other side. So that's cool. This little thing, it took me, of course, with the big toys, it took me about 30 minutes of farting around with Rosie. I drove down the bank there. I started off, I was trying to pull clay from over here, and it was just too gooey. So I actually built it once with the tractor, and it all just went to crap right away because it was too gooey. So then I tore it all out the next day, drove down the bank right there with Rosie, grabbed a little bit more of that good clay that I knew was dry and clean, threw it in on top, packed it real good, and then used the tractor to pull just some extra from over here with the box blade to kind of top dress it. It was sunny that day, so it was drying out just as quick as I was moving it. So you can see there are still some little ruts here and there. That's just from running through it today, but none of those are any depth to cause any real concern. They'll drain right off. We'll get one day of sunny weather, and I'll splash through it a couple times with the tractor, and they'll be good. But I'll continue pulling across it with the blade and smoothing it out. So cool, looks to be working.